How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Chapter 1. The Struggles of Michael. Michael sat at his desk, staring at the screen in front of him. Another day at the office, another missed opportunity to make connections. He had always been an introvert, more comfortable with his thoughts than with socializing. But now, as his career progressed, Michael realized that he needed to build relationships, not just with clients, but with coworkers, bosses, and even strangers in the industry. He needed to win friends and influence people, but it felt like an impossible task. Michael had heard of Dale Carnegie's famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, but he had always brushed it off as another self-help book. However, the more he thought about it, the more he realized that perhaps the book had something valuable to offer. Desperate to improve his social skills, Michael ordered the book. Chapter 2. The First Step: The Power of a Genuine Interest in Others. As soon as Michael began reading, he was struck by the first principle Carnegie outlined: become genuinely interested in other people. Michael had always thought about how others could benefit him, but he had never truly considered what made people tick, what they cared about, and what drove their actions. Carnegie emphasized that people love to talk about themselves. He told a story of a man named John, a successful businessman who became popular because he took the time to get to know others, what they loved, what they dreamed about, and what they were passionate about. John didn't try to impress people with his achievements. He simply listened and showed genuine interest. Michael paused. He realized that this was a game changer. Instead of trying to push his own agenda, he could begin by making others feel seen and valued. He made a vow to stop thinking about what people could do for him and start focusing on what he could do for them by learning about their lives, interests, and goals. Chapter 3. A smile can change everything. A few days later, Michael was at a networking event, feeling awkward among all the strangers. He wanted to connect with people, but he felt unsure about how to start a conversation. Then he remembered Carnegie's advice. A smile is a powerful tool. Michael realized that he had been walking into rooms with a tense, closed-off expression. He had always thought of his social interactions as tasks to get through rather than opportunities to connect. Carnegie suggested that a simple, sincere smile could break the ice and make people feel comfortable. With this thought in mind, Michael decided to test it. He smiled at the first person he saw at the event, an older woman standing near the coffee table. To his surprise, she smiled back warmly, and they started talking. Michael felt a weight lift off his shoulders. For the first time in a long while, he was enjoying a conversation without overthinking. By the end of their discussion, he learned about her work in the arts and her volunteer efforts with children. She seemed genuinely interested in him as well, and the conversation flowed naturally. Carnegie's lesson was clear. A genuine smile invites connection. Michael realized that something as simple as a smile could open doors to deeper conversations and stronger relationships. Chapter 4. Remembering Names: The Power of Personalization. The next principle Michael encountered was perhaps the most straightforward yet impactful. Remember that a person's name is, to that person, the sweetest sound in any language. Carnegie highlighted the importance of remembering people's names, stating that it shows respect and appreciation for them as individuals. People are drawn to others who make them feel important, and remembering someone's name is a simple but profound way to do this. Michael thought back to the networking event. He had met several people, but there were a few names he had forgotten almost immediately. The more he thought about it, the more he realized how disheartening it could feel when someone didn't remember his name. He had often been in situations where people would refer to him as, "Hey, you," or "What's your name again?" Determined to change his approach, Michael began practicing how to remember people's names. Whenever he met someone new, he repeated their name several times during the conversation. If he met someone at an event, he wrote their name down in a notebook later that evening, making sure he could recall it the next time they crossed paths. Soon enough, Michael noticed that people started responding positively to him. It wasn't about trying to impress them with his knowledge or success. It was about showing them that they were important by remembering their names. The more he practiced this, the more he saw how it deepened his connections. Chapter 5. The Power of Listening. Let others talk. Carnegie's next piece of advice was another powerful one. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. Michael had often made the mistake of trying to impress people by talking about his own achievements or opinions. But Carnegie emphasized that people are much more likely to remember and like you if you make them feel heard. Michael began to realize how often he cut people off or jumped in with his own thoughts. He had always seen conversations as opportunities to share his ideas, but what he failed to understand was that people enjoy conversations where they feel valued and listened to. The next time Michael was at work, he consciously focused on listening. He asked his colleague Sarah about a project she was working on and let her speak uninterrupted. He was amazed at how engaged she became. She spoke with passion about her work and even offered him helpful insights on his own projects. By simply listening, Michael had fostered a deeper connection with her. Chapter 6. Talk in terms of others' interests. One of the most important lessons in Carnegie's book was to talk in terms of others' interests. Michael had always tried to steer conversations in directions that were comfortable for him. But Carnegie emphasized that when you talk about things that others care about, it creates a bond that goes beyond superficial conversation. The next time Michael found himself talking with a potential client, he remembered this principle. Instead of talking about his product right away, he asked the client about their business and challenges. He discovered that the client was passionate about sustainability and ethical business practices. Michael was able to tailor his conversation to show how his product aligned with their values, and the client responded enthusiastically. By focusing on what others cared about, Michael was able to make more meaningful connections. This approach wasn't just about sales. It was about forming genuine relationships built on mutual respect and understanding. Chapter 7. Making people feel important. The Art of Appreciation. One of the most profound lessons in How to Win Friends and Influence People was the importance of making others feel important and doing so sincerely. Carnegie wrote, "Give honest and sincere appreciation." Michael had always been reluctant to offer compliments, fearing they might come across as insincere. However, he learned that people crave appreciation. Everyone wants to feel valued. He began to practice giving genuine compliments. When his team at work completed a project successfully, he made sure to acknowledge each person's contribution. When a colleague went out of their way to help him, he thanked them with sincerity. The results were remarkable. People began to warm up to Michael more quickly, and he found that their willingness to collaborate increased. People didn't just want recognition. They wanted to feel that their work and efforts mattered. By offering sincere appreciation, Michael became a more influential and respected member of his team. Chapter 8. The Secret to Winning People Over. Avoiding Arguments. In his quest to improve his social skills, Michael also learned an important principle. The only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Carnegie stressed that winning an argument doesn't necessarily lead to winning a person's respect or admiration. In fact, it can alienate them. The more you argue, the more the other person digs in their heels, and the less likely they are to be influenced by you. Michael realized how often he had engaged in fruitless debates, trying to prove his point rather than understanding the other person's perspective. He began to practice stepping back from arguments, seeking common ground instead of focusing on being right. The next time he disagreed with someone at work, he made an effort to listen to their point of view. Instead of fighting for his own stance, he asked questions to better understand where they were coming from. To his surprise, this approach led to more productive conversations and stronger relationships. Chapter 9. The Transformation. As the weeks passed, Michael's life began to change. He felt more confident and at ease in social situations. He connected with people more easily, and his relationships at work became more collaborative and supportive. His career began to take off as he built stronger connections with colleagues, clients, and superiors. Michael's ability to influence others had grown, not through manipulation, but through understanding, kindness, and genuine interest. One evening, after a particularly successful meeting with a client, Michael sat back and reflected on how far he had come. It wasn't just his career that had changed. His entire outlook on relationships had shifted. He no longer saw people as obstacles to his success, but as allies and partners. The principles in How to Win Friends and Influence People had transformed him into someone who was not only more influential, but also more empathetic and authentic. He had learned that success wasn't about competition or confrontation. It was about building relationships and nurturing a positive, supportive environment wherever he went. As Michael continued to apply Carnegie's principles in his everyday life, he knew that this was just the beginning. The journey of building deeper, more meaningful connections would continue for the rest of his life.